myself, who the heck is that? Little did I know that I worked with that man for 35 years. I can't say enough good things about Halbe Brown. I have a 30-minute speech here. I'll tell you I can only speak for 20 minutes. So I'll get right to it. One thing that nobody has mentioned at all about Halbe, he had a fantastic sense of humor. To illustrate my point, I was with the family. They treated me like family. I was out in, what's that place, Youngstown, Ohio? And we decided to go to the mall and get some pizza. Well, anyway, Jane was in there getting pizza. And the pizzeria had a nice big picture window. So Halbe and I, maybe Paul Brown, I'm not sure, we were out in the parking lot. And Halbe said, I'm going to get into this shopping cart. And I want you to wheel me right by Jane. Right by Jane, there's Halbe. And Jane turns some shades of color I have never. She was famous for saying, "Oh, Halbe." Another thing about Halbe, he was an extremely hard worker. I can remember after putting in a full day in the Montclair office, I used to live down there. Halbe would come down to see me Tuesday through Thursday. He came down for other reasons too. He came down and there was a musty old rug on the floor in the main part of the office, and it had to come up fairly soon. So we put in a long, long day. And finally, it was just sort of spontaneous. Halbe decided, hey, why don't we tear this rug out? So he and I spent all night long tearing this rug out, and it was not easy. That glue was unbelievable. We had a TV set on his desk. We were watching the San Francisco 49ers. They lost 48-0. So anyway, Halbe would often work till like 2 or 3 in the morning. And even up here in the main camp, he'd work long, long hours. One of the funniest stories I can remember, if there was something wrong down there, Halbe did not call maintenance. Of course, it would be a long-distance phone call. It would probably take time for them to get down there to Montclair. But there was a window that wasn't working properly. So he got out on the roof. And it was toward the main part. We were right on a very busy corner. South Fullerton, or no, what was it? Claremont Valley, right. And we were about a block from the police department. So anyway. Always out there on the roof. And the next thing I know, there's 2 police cars going into the Montclair driveway. And the word had gotten out that there was a man breaking into the house. But anyway, Halbe was able to talk himself out of that one. Another thing that we used to do is, in the Montclair office, we were always moving things. And we had a couch that must have weighed 200 pounds at least. And I know Paul Brown was there, and myself and Halbe. And we had to move from the first floor up to the 3rd floor. This thing was gigantic. It had one of those beds that would come out. So anyway, we're jockeying this thing around, and finally we decided we were going to take this leg off. Then we had to take that leg off, and finally we had all the legs off. And then the bed would start coming out. And it was quite a challenge, but we did finally get it up to the 3rd floor. One thing I always remember about Halbe, I always felt like I was working with Halbe, not for Halbe. He would get, whatever had to be done, he'd get right down there with you, and he'd work side by side with you, which speaks very loudly, I think. If there was a work project, it was get it done, do it right. And it was always our job, not your job or somebody else's job. It was always a group effort. lot to help others. He used to have the dining hall freeze the food that was left over, that was not served, and wrap it up nicely. And he would go around to folks that were in need, and it was like a Meals on Wheels type thing. And he would sit down and talk to him for about an hour. Jane would go with him sometimes, and when Jane wasn't available, I would go with him. And I think that people enjoyed just talking to Halbe more than the food itself, but I'm sure they enjoyed the food too. And Halbe always took a very genuine interest in the guests and the staff. He was always, he'd check in Friday nights, he was always around the ad office, that's what it was called back then. And he was always drifting around the dining hall, talking to people and seeing they're having a good time. And another thing I always think about, you can't say Halbe without saying Jane. They were just an amazing team, very supportive of each other, both very hard workers. I can still see Jane sitting in there at 2 o'clock in the morning, rolling coins. So anyway, we didn't have computers back in those days, so it was a lot of work. And there's a YMCA saying, I guess it's outdated. I used to see it all the time, and I used to think about Halbe quite a bit. It went something like this: don't just talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. And Halbe Brown truly walked the walk.